So good morning, everyone. I believe we're on time for starting, and welcome to this session for leveraging Runecast as a service. So today we're going to have a look at a couple of things. We're going to have a look at why service providers are using Runecast Analyzer, how they're using Runecast Analyzer, and then we'll just jump into a live overview and see, exactly what this looks like within the platform. So why are service providers using Runecast Analyzer? So there are many different areas in Runecast that we can have a look at. One of them is the Enterprise Console. So the Enterprise Console is going to give us visibility into our customer data centers. So this means that I can use Runecast from the comfort of my own office to see what's going on in their environment for reporting and checking up. If I'm a managed service provider, then obviously I can have a look and see what's going on in the environment before I actually go on site, which gives me a lot of leverage to go and be prepared beforehand. We have the configuration analysis areas. So our config KBs, best practice, vulnerabilities. A lot of service providers will start to split these things up, but we'll have a look at that in a second. Obviously, security compliance, especially since the pandemic, has become even more important. Unfortunately, hackers have a lot of time on their hands now. So that's a really big area for service providers to be having a look at the environment and making sure it's fully secure. On the hardware side of things, obviously, a lot of people, it takes ages to go into the HCL. You've got to check through your environment. Then you've got to go and have a look online and match everything up, download the correct drivers, BIOS, firmware, and get everything in line with that. You might have some configuration drift, after you've set up your hardware. You're going to want to deal with that as an MSP or as a service provider. Just tell your customers that they've got configuration drift going on. I'm not going to dive too deeply into that because a bit later on, at, I believe 1:10 Const and Ailin are going to show you configuration vault and remediation. So I won't be diving too deeply into remediation either. But these are really important areas where service providers can actually take control, be proactive on their customer environments, and make sure that everything's running smoothly so they've got happy customers. And obviously the final area there, the log analysis. So what we do with the log analysis, we're bringing out the log KBs, which are kind of that needle in the haystack that you normally wouldn't go looking for. So it's really nice that they're provided there. And we don't try and compete with things like Log Insight or Splunk. We only hold the logs for a short period of time for syslogs. But the idea, again, is to be proactive, just get that visibility by keyword, jumping in and seeing exactly like what's going on here. Okay, now I can go and fix that. So that's why service providers are using Runecast Analyzer. It's because it gives them that deep visibility into their customer sites. So how are they using it? So this is slightly different because there are sort of 4 general areas that I've picked up from talking to MSPs that work with Runecast. And the first one here is the complete package. So as a service provider, you might want to just provide the complete package of Runecast to your customer so that they get all the insights. If you're not going on site and managing, then you want to provide those insights to your customers. So what we can do is we can provide the complete package and show them absolutely everything so that they can deal with their environment. The other way that service providers are using Runecast is by separated services. So as I was mentioning earlier, the Enterprise Console dashboard, that allows me the insights to jump in and have a look at what's going on in that customer environment. And then I might decide that actually I'm going to separate these out and bring in some different services. So for example, configuration analysis. So this is covering my config KBs, my best practice, and my vulnerabilities. So this might be a bronze package for me. Then I might open that up to a silver package, for example, and bring in security compliance as well. So different customers are going to have different requirements. They might not require all of the services we can provide by using Runecast Analyzer. So it's nice that we can actually separate these out. We've got our hardware configuration checks. So this is our configuration vault and the hardware compatibility, and then the custom profiles as well. So this is something which I've noticed with a couple of MSPs that we work with, is that their customers actually have their own in-house security requirements. So they might not require something like ISO or CIS, but actually they do have a security team which is asking them to fulfill certain security obligations. So in this way, we can actually use our custom profiles here and build up a profile which is compliant with that company's requirements. So this is a really nice touch and something that, you know, is being utilized really nicely within the industry. And finally, the log analysis. So as I was saying earlier, you know, this is where we can, you know, just jump in, get those immediate insights into what's happening with the syslogs, pulling out that needle in the haystack for the log KBs, and really get those deep insights. So this is another way, other than the, you know, complete package, that people are using Runecast Analyzer. There's a couple of other ways that we're seeing this being used in the industry. One of them is on-site remediation. Now, I'm not going to dive too deeply in this. As I said earlier on, Constant and Aileen are going to be doing a session on this at 1:10. So, you know, but for those managed service providers, they're going to be able to jump in, have a look and say, okay, I need to go on site. I need to remediate these issues. And, you know, even in the security areas as well, we've got Power CLI that you need to implement. We've got this new remediation feature, which means that I can just go in, sort out my remediation. Again, sorry, I'm not going to, I'd love to jump into this. I find it an amazing part of Runecast, but that's going to happen in a session a bit later on. So if you do need to go on site, all of that information's at your fingertips. And, you know, this is what Runecast Analyzer is about. It's about the fact that I can have a look at the environment and I can see that actually, you know, everything here is what I need to be looking at. This is what I need to do to fix the issue. And I can maintain that 100% uptime through proactive monitoring. So the final area that we're going to have a look at here is audit reporting. Now, I know that Unot's covered security earlier on. He will have shown you the all issues view and how we can do reporting in there. But this is a really important area as well. You know, if I need to be ISO compliant, for example, or in this case, we have CIS up here. This means that I can actually use my profiles, filter down exactly to, you know, what I want to check. And if I've got someone coming in to perform that audit, or if I need to do that audit myself, we actually can go back for the whole year and show compliance throughout the environment. So this is really important, not just, you know, if you need to be certified, but it's important to be able to show the customer that actually you've been keeping their environment compliant if you're managing them. Or if you're just providing a service where they manage themselves, you can show them how compliant they have been and how well they are doing at keeping their compliance up. So these are the four main areas that I see service providers using Runecast for. So on the point of compliance, you know, we do have, I know we covered security in a session earlier on, but we do have all of these areas that we can cover. So, you know, CIS, ISO, really popular at the moment. And obviously, you know, for those financial institutes, PCI DSS. So, you know, we've got a really good coverage here of how you can actually configure your environment to be security compliant for your customers. Okay, guys, so let's jump into a live overview, and I'm going to jump straight straight into Runecast Analyzer here. And sorry, I should have mentioned at the beginning, if you have any questions, please pop them in the room chat. I see there's nothing at the moment, but if you do have any questions as we're going through, please pop them in there and we'll address those at the end. So the Enterprise Console dashboard, what's it all about? This is about layering out my customers so that I can see here that, you know, I've got my customer 1, customer 2, 3, 4. So what I can do is I can actually connect through to their environment, so I can get that visibility from the comfort of my office. So either for reporting purposes or before I go on site, I can actually see, you know, what's going on in their environment. And also, you know, it might be that something happens overnight. You know, when I jump in here, I can see I've got my critical issues, major, medium, and low for this environment. So I can actually get that full visibility at a really quick glance to see what's going on and see if anything's jumped up. So for configuration analysis, I would like to jump into the config KBs here because, you know, again, this really describes Runecast Analyzer and the possibilities that we can achieve with it. So I love this dashboard because it looks really scary. So whenever I show this to people, you know, they think, okay, I don't want that happening in my environment. I'm not sure I maybe want to see this because it looks a bit scary, but actually it's not as scary as it looks. So what we can see here is the possibility of what's going to happen in my environment. So it looks like I've got a lot of PSOD going on, but actually it's not happening right now. This will happen if I don't deal with it. And again, you know, the power of Runecast Analyzer is that I can say, okay, what's going on here? If I just expand this up for you, we can see it's the full text of the KB article from VMware. So from these symptoms, we can actually tell that this is going to happen in my environment, but it's not happening right now. So normally, you know, you've got that break fix scenario, something goes wrong, you figure out what that is, and then you're either going to support and waiting on that, or you're going and having a hunt for the KB article yourself. And all of this is wasted time. Whereas if I use Runecast Analyzer in my customer environment, I can actually say, okay, I know my customer's going to get downtime from this PSOD, but actually I can resolve that before it happens. In this case, an update. So again, to save you time, you know, normally I would then have to go hunting for that update. I can just select this, it's going to jump me straight in, and I can download that update. So not only do I have all of the information at my fingertips, and apologies, it seems I've got a bit of lag going on here, but I also have, you know, how to deal with that at my fingertips. And right here we can see I can just jump straight in and download that update. So I just wanted to show you this because it shows you, you know, how you can actually achieve, you know, making your customer environments compliant without having to wait for anything. You don't have to wait anymore. You can just jump straight in, see what's going on in their environment and deal with it. So, you know, what are the benefits of this? Well, the first benefit here is going to be that, you know, I can actually maintain that environment a lot faster. So I don't have to go looking for this information beforehand. I can, you know, have a look at the environment from the comfort of my office. I know what I'm going to do if I'm going in to manage that environment, and I can go on site and, you know, just deal with it. So that's going to save me loads of time. And obviously, the more time I save on a customer site means that I can move on to the next customer site quicker, which means I can actually deal with more customers in a shorter space of time, providing them better quality of service. And, you know, that's why service providers are using Runecast Analyzer. So for the different areas, you know, as we mentioned earlier on, sometimes people separate these out as different services. So I could use my, you know, config KBs, the best practice, vulnerabilities. You know, vulnerabilities, again, for service providers, that's a major area to have visibility into. And once again, you know, if I open this up, I can see that it's the full text from VMware for this vulnerability article. And I can actually get a really nice overview here of where we're passing and where we're failing. So that allows me to provide my customers with that information. It allows me to, if I'm going on site, understand exactly what's been missed. What do we need to deal with here? So this is really, again, very simple, but very powerful in what it's providing for us, because it means that actually, I don't need to be hunting for those needles in the haystack. I've got all that information right here at my fingertips. So what we can have a look at with security compliance, I don't want to dive too deeply in that because, it happened earlier on for Unot's session. So, if you missed that one, I would definitely suggest going back when the recordings are released. But, we had a look earlier on at the security compliance that we have. And obviously we can see it here in the left-hand side here. So as a service provider, if my customer says to me, I need to be ISO compliant, there's a couple of things here that are going to be a little bit difficult for me. So one might be that the customer says, okay, we got audited and they said, there are some ISO controls that we're not fulfilling. We can actually check those out here. So as a service provider, I can get on top of that before the auditor comes in. And obviously there are some things that you just can't scan for. So we have to do the manual checks. And as a service provider, again, that's a real pain. Have I covered all of those manual checks? And we can dive in here and I can have a look and see these manual checks. And we can actually leave the notes in here. So, once I've done those manual checks, I can, leave a note in here. Yes, I've done this. It auto populates with who's said that they've done these checks. So we have accountability here. So I know if I send someone on site, they've done these checks, I have the accountability and I can report on that from here as well. So, it's another little touch that's really helping service providers to be able to, stay on top of what's going on in their customer environments and, make sure that they really do understand what they've checked, what they haven't checked, and what they need to look at next. So one of the important things here, I think, is, as a service provider, I might go on site, I might talk to that customer, and they say to me, actually, I don't need to be ISO compliant. I don't need CIS compliance, but I do have an in-house security team. So our security team, tells the administrators exactly where they need to be compliant to comply with the company's rules. So what can I do about this as a service provider? Well, I can create a custom profile. So for that company, I can jump in here. We've got the profile management where we create these profiles, but I can create them a security framework here. So you'll notice in mine, some of them are repeated. Obviously, it's a demo environment. But what we can do here is I can actually pick and choose from these security compliance areas and pop that in here and say, okay, for this one, it's CIS. For example, I know that this is 14 characters. It needs to comprise of at least one character from all the 4 distinct sets. So, if that suits their security compliance, I can pick that out and I can add that to my custom profile very easily. So I jump down here in the definition database and let's just filter this down to VMware to make it a little easier to see what's going on. And I can say, okay, for me, I know CIS, ISO, NIST, these are really strong compliances. So CIS, ISO, I won't bother bringing in NIST for now, but you can see the point. I can select here with my profiles. So I can then say, okay, I'm going to create a password policy. So this is the one that we were just looking at, CIS, ensure the passwords are required to be complex. So that's 14 characters and 1 character from each of the distinct sets. So if I drop this down, I have a look through, I say, okay, that fits my customer's profile. And I can copy this issue out to my profile here. So I select my security framework and I can say, actually, for the customer, that's, it's critical, it's not major. So I can even change the severities here and copy this issue out. So in this way, I'm going to start to build up that security framework. And that means that, when the customer says, how compliant have I been in my environment, or how compliant have you been keeping us with our security, you can actually then jump back to the all issues view, do that reporting. Because what we do is we actually, if I just show you here in the profile management, we have to create a code. So when I'm going through my profiles, I will actually see for my security framework, I've called it SEC FWK, and I can actually see that that's in my profiles. I can select it and I can do reporting on that. So in this way, service providers can actually, create that framework, do full reporting on that framework, and show them how well they're keeping the environment for that customer. So I think, we've seen a really nice overview. What I'd like to just jump back to is the all issues view there, just to show you finally, because I believe we're coming up on time very shortly. But I want to show you that. So profile here, I can see my security framework that I've created for that customer. And, I can go back for any period of time for reporting here. So this means that I can actually show them, how compliant I've been keeping them in their environment. Or, if you're not providing managed service, you can actually show them how compliant their guys have been keeping their environment as well. So it really does give us that huge overview of, the deep dive of what's going on in the environment. And just in case you missed it earlier, the filters here are really thorough. So we can filter by the systems we have hooked in, the severities, as we saw just now, our profiles. So either custom profiles, or I can just have a look at my vulnerabilities for reporting. This allows me as a service provider to show all areas of the environment of how compliant they're being kept. So where it applies to in the stack, your standard AMPRS, and the products that you have hooked into Runecast. So, this really does provide you that information of, what's going on in that customer environment. Now, I'm just going to very, very briefly mention remediation, because as I said, later on at 1:10, we've got Const and Aylin that are going to show you about the configuration vault and remediation. So I don't want to jump in on that too much, but we do have built in these little purple R's. So this shows me that this is a remediate option. So again, if we're having a look at that from a service provider point of view, and let's just jump into security compliance, because I'm not sure if I pointed that out earlier on. From a remediation point of view, I'm really going to want to know when I go on site, what do I actually need to do? So when I drop this down, let's skim this down to VMware. It just makes it a little bit easier to see what's happening here. So when I come in here and I have a look and I say, okay, I've got to do something. What do I need to do? A lot of the time, you'll be given information by other products which say, this is what you need to fix. Okay, how do I do that? I can't store all of that, code in my head of what I'm going to need to do here. So we have our control description, our technical description, and if I do need something like Power CLI, bang, there's the information that I need. So, wherever I go in Runecast Analyzer as a service provider, I know that, especially if I'm on site, that information's right there at my fingertips. So I can quite happily send any sysadmin out to go and remediate these issues, because all of the information's there at their fingertips. And as we saw earlier on, it doesn't necessarily have to be that, we're providing the full service. It can be, the configuration analysis. We can include security compliance as an extra package. The config vault, obviously, if I need to make sure I don't have any configuration drift. Hardware compatibility. I mean, how often does someone go on site and say, okay, now I've gone through your driver's BIOS and firmware. Now I need to go and check against the HCL online. How much time is wasted there? So, service providers can really gain that time back and be really proactive in their customer environments. I can just jump straight in here. Okay, if I want to be compliant, I should be on 271 for this BIOS. I jump into the IO device, and you can see how quick this really is. I've got to drive a firmware combination issue here. And we can do full reporting on this by exporting that. As an extra service, it might be that your customers actually are about to do an upgrade. Or, I mean, a lot of people look at what I'm about to show you as upgrade simulation. I like to look at it as simulation of making my environment complete. It might be that actually I've got old hardware in the customer site, and I go in there and I say, okay, my customer can't afford to upgrade their hardware. So what's the best version for them to be compliant on? So, if they're on 6.5, I say, okay, let's have a look at 6.7. And this takes just a couple of moments to run through. And, here I can have a look and I can see actually it's not compliant with 6.7. So then I can start jumping around, or if it's for an upgrade to the latest version, you'll notice we have version 7 update 3 here. I can simulate this here as well. So, it's another service that I can provide to my customers. Okay, guys, so I'm wary that we're 4 minutes up to time and I want to give some time to any questions here. So I'm just going to have a quick check and have a look at the questions. So if we're going for MSP model, how does the charging mechanism work? Okay, so this is, I'm afraid I can't answer that question for you because I'm just a technical guy. So what I would suggest is reach out to someone like Patrick Carroll or Emil Bobev, and hopefully Nathan Holcup should be online as well. So these are our sales guys. They will be able to answer that for you because I don't deal with the sales side. I just deal with the technical side here. Okay, so we've got currently, I understand it works on the number of cores. So if you're in the VMware environment, then all of our licensing models are based on the number of CPU sockets. Okay, it's not the number of cores, it's the number of CPU sockets. So I have 2 sockets, I need 2 licenses. Could I briefly explain Runecast installation and configuration for customers? So because we've got 3 minutes, I can go briefly, yes. So very briefly, you can deploy as an OVA. It's very, very quick to do. It's really easy to set up. We also do offer for our customers or prospects, if you want to deploy into your environment, we can jump online with you and walk you through that as well. But it's very, very simple. To get a full explanation of that, to understand it, I would suggest also going to the Runecast YouTube channel, and we have some how-to videos there of how to deploy and set it up as well. So I can notice in there that Emil has put his email address in there. So for that MSP model question of, how does the charging mechanism work, please feel free to reach out to Emil. He should be online as well, so you can have a direct chat with him or email him too. Okay, we're less than a minute to the end of this. So thank you very much for turning up and seeing this presentation. I would like to just remind you that starting in 5 minutes, we have Let's Have Lunch together. So, we can all have an open chat there as well. So if you fancy joining us, grab your lunch and come and join us for Let's Have Lunch. So once again, thanks very much for joining this session and have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your uptime. Bye for now, guys.